It's really happening.
Order, sir?
Yes. Initiate a subspace communication link to my Mima.
I wanted to see our special boy being the captain.
Yes, sir.
Hello and good day to you. Star Trek Lower Decks, the entire show, is over. And we've watched every episode here on Live Long and Podcast. And so we're ready to finally eulogize this show as it's come to its end, its 5-year end. This is a live stream review here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, audio versions. You might be, commenting along live. We got Norman here in the chat. I'm Dave Mader, and we got a great panel here to break it down. First, we got Kevin and Ashley Millard. Hello, and good day
Hi.
to you. We have Justin Velociraptor himself from our science division, wearing his Lower Decks blue. Hello to you, sir. We are also expecting Davan Skelhorn to be in and out as he will find breaks in his parenting duties as we are, here. So I was trying, we originally maybe planned to do this little sit down a little sooner, but I was hoping that we could get Jaemeel Robinson and Jeff Mader on this podcast because originally if you've been following here on our podcast, we covered every episode as they aired starting 5 years ago in 2020 is when this show came out. And so in that the first 2 seasons I was almost exclusively with Jeff and Jaemeel. And then I don't know, in the 3rd season I guess I just started doing it more with Davan and Chris and others who came along, including Kevin and Ashley and Justin in the 5th season. We didn't know you yet at that point. So but it was, alas, was not meant to be. It's also, Royal Rumble Day today here on this February 1st, 2025. So what can I can't expect craziness here, guys. This is a religious experience for their wrestling, and priorities are priorities. But I want to talk about this because when we come to the end of a show, we've done a few of these where we like to kind of say what did it all mean? How do we feel about the show overall? We're also going to talk about our bottom 5 episodes and our top 5 episodes as we rated them, and see did we rate these more harshly or more inflated than we perhaps we should have. But I just want to talk to the group. Kevin, we'll start maybe with you. How do you feel about this show ending and its legacy within Trek?
I think it's perfect. I love this show. I love every episode. Even the bad ones are great. This was a near perfect show for me. I can hit this on a shuffle and watch. I'm never skipping. I'll watch any one of them.
Good thing. Okay, and Ashley, would you agree with Kevin? Do you have the same feelings?
Yeah, it's definitely up there as one of my favorite Star Trek shows. I think it was a pretty good love letter to Star Trek fans. I'm sad that it ended so fast. I don't think it should have been canceled.
I agree with you. I wish we had, for considering, and I think I've said this before, that The Simpsons got, I don't know, it's still going, right? Or it's finally ending, The Simpsons, apparently.
It's still going, I think.
And that show was able to, go way past, what I think it was funny. But this show only got to 5 seasons and, is over. And it only has 10 episodes a season compared to, like, The Simpsons, which typically I think has, like, 20 plus episodes in a season. and other Star Trek shows, live action ones, so I don't really understand how they make these decisions, although I'm glad we got what we got, because I remember, talking with, Kevin, Ashley, Jody, Jeff, Jaemeel, others 5 years ago when this idea was coming, hey, we're getting this cartoon Star Trek that's in canon, but it's going to be like this comedy. And what is it going to mean? Is this going to be making fun of Star Trek? Is this going to fit? And, I think by the end of that, not even by the end of the first season, but I think, well into that first season, I was already coming around on the show that,
I was sold after the very first cold open.
The very first cold open. And I think that cold open was like, I was still going, I don't know about this.
Me too.
But, where that's the one where it's Mariner kind of flailing around and going with the Batliff and everything else, and we're going to see that very first episode, the pilot of the show, is one of our bottom 5 episodes. I think the show actually gets stronger as it goes. Although that's based on what Jeff and Jaemeel and I mostly gave it at the time. So, we can talk about that. But Justin, to you weren't there with us 5 years ago, but of course you were watching at the time.
I was.
And so, what was your journey with this show? Were you skeptical, or were you all in at the beginning?
I was very, very skeptical when I first heard about it. The same as you, I wasn't really sure how it was going to work as an animated comedy. Especially, Star Trek is so beloved in my heart. But every episode was a banger. I didn't feel that way at the beginning. I had some trouble accepting that this exists. It was a bit too Rick and Morty, I think, at the beginning. But I think it grew into its own, and it had less of that the Rick and Morty as a Star Trek character, which is what I really felt it was in the first couple of seasons, which wasn't bad. But I think when it really comes into its own in like the third season, in my opinion, there's absolutely zero notes on almost anything. I mean, anybody that watches any of the reviews that I did knows how much I love fan service Easter eggs in this show. And damn, did it serve those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of how we rated it here on the channel and the different podcasts at the time, like season 1 is our lowest rated season. It has an average of 7.3. Again, Jeff Mader's skewing the data quite a bit in there, because he was mostly involved in those early seasons in the ratings, and he kind of fell off there. He's a little more critical, I think. But 7.3, that's actually tied with our overall rating for Deep Space Nine as a whole. We rated now, that's 180 episodes that we rated there. But it's not to say that we don't like it at 7.3. But these other seasons are much higher in average ratings. Like season 4 is the next lowest, I guess, at 8.4, which is still very good. A very good score. Then season 2 at 8.5, season 3 8.7, and season 5 is our top season at 9. And it was different people voting at different times. I'm one of the only, I think, consistent people throughout the 5 years. And what's my average for Lower Decks? I average an 8.5 overall. So
what is everyone's standout episode? Like the favorite.
Like for me,
you guys, each of you, yeah.
Justin, you want to go first?
That's a tough one. I really, really liked the season 5 penultimate purple episode. I think that was the penultimate episode, right? Yeah.
Are you talking about
the multiverse one? With T'Pol and same.
Yeah, where they had the purple. Why wouldn't you be purple?
Oh, you mean purple data? No, you're talking about Fully Dilated.
Oh, Fully Dilated. Yes, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Season 5, episode 7.
Yes, that I think is. But see, then there's like Inner Fight too. You know what? I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna say Purple Data. I loved that throwback to the little purple Enterprise that came with my queue.
You know, like, weirdly enough, like, when I think of this show and the episode that really stands out to me, it's not in our top 5 or in our bottom 5 today, but it's the one. It's called A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. This is the Peanut Hamper episode with her with the birds and everything else. Norman saying here he'll defend the episode. So will I. Now it's very polarizing, where some fans hate it and some fans love it. But I think Ashley, you're on the hate side, or
I would have loved it if it wasn't Peanut Hamper.
Right.
And
I wasn't a fan of the character
either. I hate the owls. It reminded me of an original series episode, but Peanut Hamper is the worst character in Star Trek for me.
She's supposed to be a bad character.
I would rather watch Laughing Vulcan Robot than Peanut Hamper.
That's crazy.
Keep it in your pants, sister. I'm not trying to steal your bird, man.
I just hate her.
Peanut Hamper, to me, represents the side of the fandom that makes me want to punch people in the face.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I loved hating Peanut Hamper so much. Like, I know Badgie is another one that a lot of people on Live Long and Podcast are not huge fans of, but I love Badgie. You give me anything with that particular voice actor whose name is escaped. Kenneth Parcell in my head. But
the guy from 30 Rock.
And I'll watch that. So I loved it. Peanut Hamper she's the Dolores Umbridge of Star Trek.
Like, there are so many great episodes that stand out. Like Norman was pointing out Crisis Point 2, but both Crisis Point episodes are really imaginative and different. Yeah. In that final season, similar to that Peanut Hamper and the Bird, Mathematically Perfect Redemption, we get A Farewell to Farms, which is that episode with the Klingons and everything else. Like, when they kind of went a little outside of their normal format, like they would do like these sort of like these special episodes, if you will. That those stand out, but there's so many great moments. I think also like the Spy Humongous also stands out to me with the Packlets.
We tricked you, Janeway. We never wanted peace. Rumdar was a spy! Ha 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 ha! What did you learn, spy? The Enterprise has the biggest bathrooms ever.
That one and the owls are mine. Those are
like I absolutely love the season 1 finale episode 2. Like, give me Riker in anything and I'm happy.
The no small
except
parts.
For the last episode of Enterprise, but
except
we
for
don't talk about the last episode of Enterprise.
Exactly.
Give me warp in the factor of 5, 6, 7, 8.
Good, I love it.
There's like, I love that it tied in with the canon. I love that it had this comedy. In that episode, No Small Parts, there's this whole, when Shax dies, I remember watching that live with Jaemeel and Jeff, because I think it was a night where we had like a Big Brother podcast too, and we were just fitting it in where we could. And we're like, when we realized Shax was going to die, we're like, no, it can't be, it can't happen. And then when he was brought back to life, and they're like, well, we bring back people to life all the time in Star Trek. Who cares? Death doesn't really matter. I'm like, yeah, good point. I like that the show, right from the first episode, was like, Star Trek is kind of absurd at times and kind of really out there and weird. Like, with the whole zombie apocalypse, or like the virus they have in that very first episode.
Yeah.
Reminds me of when Barclay got turned into the spider and like the de-evolution.
That one reminds me of Enterprise with the Vulcans, the zombie Vulcan episode. Like, it just.
Right, there's that one. There's also that episode where Archer and Toshi, they got turned into like those aliens or whatever. They were talking like cavemen.
And Paris and Janeway, who will always have the Delta Quadrant.
Right, the whole thing with the
Salamander love.
Exactly. So those ones stand out to me. Like, just wanted to run through let's talk about what would like maybe our least favorite episodes, and none of them have like super low scores. They're all, so starting with our bottom 5 of these 50 episodes that came out. Terminal Provocations at 5.9. Now you'll see a theme here that the episodes with Badgie are kind of rated a lot lower. I'm not a fan. Justin is, but he wasn't voting on most of these back at the time. So, Badgie's term was kind of already completed by the time we even met you, Justin. But this character was created by John Cochran from Survivor, who was one of the writers on this show, as well as David Wright, also from Survivor. And I don't know, Justin, I don't know if you watch Survivor at all. I know Ashley and Kevin definitely do not. But
I haven't watched Survivor since that fella fell in the fire, and that was like 20 years ago.
That's season 2. Yeah, we're up to 40.
There you go.
Well,
We're up to 48.
I watched Survivor too.
Yeah, well, it's been 46 seasons, guys, since then, and or 40,
Jesus.
45 actually, but about to be 46. Or to start that out. But so anyway, so a bunch of those like Survivor contestants somehow ended up on the writing staff of Star Trek Lower Decks, and Cochran, who was one of those Survivor winners, created this character. Now, I don't know. It just it was meant to be like one of those great villains, but in a show that's very cartoony, I think that this character just always felt very cartoony to me. You guys said you rewatched all these.
Yeah.
How was this one for you?
Not terrible. I wouldn't put it in my bottom 5. Like I wouldn't put it in the top half, but I probably wouldn't put it in the bottom 5. This one was fine.
It's good. But I don't hate Badgie. Badgie's fine. I don't understand the hatred of Badgie.
Okay,
I mean, we get great wordplay later, Badgie and Goodgie. Like, come on, that's amazing.
It gets better for me, but I think making Badgie the big. Norman saying Badgie just okay. Like the concept, made too much of a big deal. Should only be a minor piece. And it was that they were trying to make it such a big important character. I think for me, and then I was like, I'm not here for that. Holodeck villains in general.
More Q, less Badgie. That would be my note for the whole series.
More
Agamus?
Agamus. I loved Agamus as a bad guy.
Me too. I was a big Agamus fan as well. Where is it?
I will produce a whole fleet of murder drones.
Jeffrey Combs.
I love that even when he's being nice, he still has the evil laugh too. Yeah. Like it's just Jeffrey Combs is just so good in everything he does.
Oh yeah, I love his Agabus character here too. So that's our least rated episode. That's our lowest episode of them all. It's almost a 6 out of 10. Then Second Contact is our next lowest rated episode at 6.2. That cold open, it seems like our mileage varies on that cold open and like how the show kind of starts. I think trying to pull in a younger audience, which is what I think the show really was trying to do to varying degrees. I don't know. It seemed to be servicing more of the millennial crowd more than anybody else and the older sort of Star Trek fans. But yeah, it's a decent enough start to the show as well, and I just think that it's an okay episode. I would
argue that it's one of the best first episodes of a Star Trek series ever.
Well, I wouldn't disagree necessarily because the bar is not very high. Most of
exactly.
I think I don't mind the Voyager premiere. I think that's a pretty good premiere, and
I do too. Yeah,
Enterprise is okay. It's not the worst, but the Deep Space Nine, it's not my favorite start. Next Gen is okay, but it's got problems. And then original series doesn't really have a pilot. It does and it doesn't, but it's
say what you will about Discovery, Klingon refit aside, I really enjoyed the first episode of Discovery. It was very different. I obviously have thoughts on the Klingon redesign that are not positive, but overall, I think that it hit a lot of beats that it was going for, and I think it was one of the stronger openings for a Star Trek series.
Well, my problem with the Discovery opening is always that you don't even see the ship, the USS Discovery, until episode 3 or something. Like I'm like, for a show called USS like Star Trek Discovery, I'm like,
it should have been called Star Trek Burnham, but
yeah, that would have been more fitting. Yeah. Second Contact next lowest, but maybe what did I give this at the time? I gave it a 7.9. Jeff gave it a 4.
Jesus.
Kevin gave it a 5 at the time. Ashley gave it an 8. So, you know, Jody also gave it a 4. So that's part of the reason it's here. There were, you know, it seems like some of us really liked it. Some of us were somewhere in between. Some of us disliked it. Then we go to A Few Badgies More, season 4, episode 7, the next lowest episode at 6.5. The Badgie theme, I think, is here. Was this one any better for you guys? Like, how did we rate this?
I think this deserves a 6.5. I think that's about right.
Yeah, it's about.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
It's not terrible, but it's not great either. It's, you know, middle of the road. 6.5 is pretty good.
Yeah, Murphy's bringing this down a lot with his 5.5 rating. Davan gave it a 6 at the time. I gave it a 6.5. Yeah, it's, and then Merrick, who was also voting at the time, he gave it an 8, so he liked it a lot more. All right, then we go to season 2, episode 1, titled "Strange Energies." With this is the one where Ransom turns into sort of a Gary Mitchell type, and he's very upset with Mariner. This is, you know, a big turning point, I think, with Mariner and Ransom's relationship. And this is also on the revelation coming, I guess, near the end of season 1, that Mariner is the daughter of Captain Freeman, and how the fallout of all that, which isn't immediately known. So I liked this one episode. I liked this more at the time. I gave it what did I give it at the time? 7. Most of us were, you know, somewhere between a 6 and a 7.5. You know, so it's not bad. It's just that so many of the episodes are so much higher rated. Right, so like they're at least in the 7s, and this one's a little bit below that. So take it for what you will. Any thoughts on this one? Are we underrating it, overrating it?
I liked this one a lot. I loved the Gary Mitchell nods in it, and I love Jerry O'Connell. So Ransom-centric episodes are always going to rate high for me. I'd probably give this one like around an 8 or so. Just because I really enjoyed it. Not the strongest, and I think I'd probably be in the outliers for giving it that high of a score, but...
You just brought it up to a 7 out of 10 with that 8 rating.
Oh, there you go.
So we got some math happening here in real time. Then our next... this is the last of the bottom 5. This is the best of the bottom 5, titled Veritas, season 1, episode 8. This is the one where the bridge officers are like captured by that entity, and they're, you know, the lower deckers have to kind of work together more, and
the courtroom drama one, right?
Courtroom drama.
Yeah, it's not really a courtroom; it's just people preparing for a party.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and
this one I think is rated a little high in that group of 5. This is the one where I turned to Ashley and I went, "This one's kind of boring."
Yeah.
Yeah, you gave it a 4.5. You were the
Yeah.
low point on this rating, Kevin, specifically.
There you go.
And Jane also didn't care for it much at the time. You know, so anyway, so those are sort of like the low points. Although I wouldn't say any of those are like, oh, that's terrible. It's not like when our bottom 5 of Deep Space Nine, where we're like,
I would still watch.
We
every
have
one
ones in Deep Space Nine. Like we have episodes that rank with all of our rankings were less than 2, I think.
There's like that one with Mirror Barile. We all hate that one.
Yeah. And then what is it called?
Meridian
Meridian
with Dax and Goodwin from Lost. Oh
yeah. And then the Bashir episode with the what's her name that floats.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
she was supposed to be a major character, and they were like, "Yeah, no, this is going to cost way too much money."
We did not enjoy that one.
Hey,
they didn't want to install ramps.
Yeah. The one with Kira's mother as well was very low rated by us. We hated that one. It's right,
Melora,
like
yes.
And that's the weird thing about like season 6 of Deep Space Nine. They got some of the best episodes, but some of the worst episodes of the show were also in season 6. Melora. Yeah,
Meloria, yes. I knew it started with an M. I couldn't remember her name.
Yeah. So anyway, those are the low points, if you want to call them that. I don't know what else to really comment in terms, like we said, like season 1 was our lowest rated season. There was also Veritas and Terminal for Qualifications. Temporal Edict is also kind of a lower rating, which is the one with where Rutherford's jumping around from different divisions and everything else.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, it's on the lower side, probably because who didn't like it? Jody didn't like it. So you got everything else. I was trying to get Jody here today. What else, guys? Let's go on to our top 5 episodes and talk about the ones we thought were the best. On retrospect, I'm wondering if some of these were maybe overrated. Okay, so. But this is not one. The one I'm starting with is season 4, episode 9, titled "The Inner Fight." This is the penultimate episode of season 4. This is one where Mariner's stuck on the planet with Ma, the Klingon, and she's talking about the Dominion War and her, her trauma from that and losing her friends and why she has been acting the way she has over the years and. Not going with authority. In this whole season 4 arc, it's all about, she gets promoted to lieutenant junior grade and she keeps trying to sabotage herself, multiple times to get demoted again or thrown in the brig again or whatever. So it's a real turning point, I think, for the character and for the show. And like 9.8, I think that this does deserve its place here. Worldmind gave it a 10. Davan gave it a 10 at the time. I gave it a 9.8. Merrick gave it a 9.5. Do you feel that this one is overrated or underrated, Kevin and Ashley?
No, this is great.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
Like you said, it changes. It actually changes the whole show, because it sets the stage for her promotion, right?
Oh, for sure. And also, in season 5, where she's like, who's that ensign, Justin, who is the one who's got the Greek god?
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what her name is.
Yeah, but that character where she becomes kind of the new Mariner, the new rebel, ensign, insubordinate character, and Mariner has to then visit her in the brig, and it's kind of how that she's moved past it, right? So Justin, do you have any thoughts about this one?
I think the score is probably spot on, right around where I probably would have given it a 9.5. I don't know. I thought it was a great episode. I think you guys hit it on the nail on the head. It really does wonders for the character of Mariner and setting up that dichotomy between her and Greek goddess ensign. And sort of really see where season 1 Mariner was and where season 5 Mariner is. I think that this episode really throws that into the best light.
Yeah, I really
Plus
enjoy
the
this.
Klingon.
Yeah. Right? I wonder if I have that. Here's the speech from that episode.
Starfleet is supposed to be about puzzling together the mysteries of life, not fighting wars. I don't want to be a general. I don't want to send my friends off to die.
Sito was a warrior. You want to solve puzzles and mysteries? Your friend gave her life to protect that. She would not approve of your actions.
You're right.
So, I forgot that she was friends with Sito Jaxa at the Academy. As well, and that's the character she's specifically mourning here. So really love this one. I love it's not always a pure comedy show, and this is one of those examples where they got kind of deep, and this is a real high point.
Well, if it was just a comedy, it wouldn't be good.
Yeah,
right. That's what I really love about those early seasons of The Simpsons is that they had a lot of heart in the family and the characters, and then it just becomes like this circus show that's just about joke, right? And doesn't feel the same anymore. And Lower Decks did a great job with that. Is knowing when to take itself seriously and also when not to.
I think it in the first 2 seasons, I think it went a little far in the pendulum swing a couple of times, but like I said, season 3 on, I think they really hit their stride, and I have almost no notes.
Our fourth highest episode. Sorry.
It's classic Star Trek maneuver. Season 1 and 2 are all over the place, and then they really hit their stride in season 3.
So this comes next, or does it actually? Maybe I have this in the wrong order, guys.
No, this is the highest rated.
Yeah, you're right. I have them in the wrong order. Okay, so this is the next highest one. This is Hear All, Trust Nothing, Season 3, Episode 6. This is the one where they went to Deep Space Nine, and Quark, in Armin Shimmerman, and Kira, Nana Visitor, doing guest voices here. We find out Kira and Shax are old friends from the Resistance and all that stuff. We really enjoyed this episode at the time. Any thoughts?
Quark now has an empire, which is nice.
Yeah, he's got
20 franchises across the galaxy.
Yeah.
Or the quadrant, rather.
Yeah, Shax.
And I love the interplay between Shax and Kira, especially when they're trying to see who owes who.
Who owes who? Yeah.
I love
This
that.
is one of my favorite episodes of the series. I absolutely love this episode.
I mean, you throw Nana Visitor in anything, and I will rewatch
Yeah.
it again and again and
Yeah.
again. Kira Nerys is
All the little
so
Deep
good.
Space Nine jokes through it. Like, it's so well done.
Yeah, this is like the only time canonically we've gone back to Deep Space Nine since the end of the show. And see what's up. We knew Kira was in charge of the station at the end of the show, and that a lot of the characters had left. And that she was going to make Quark's life difficult, I guess, moving forward. All of that was part of it. But I don't remember a lot of the specifics of the episode, but I remember really enjoying it.
I like I forget his name, but the other Orion character that's stationed on Deep Space Nine, and he was adopted he was raised on Earth,
Yeah.
and he's doing the Worf treatment to Orions that Worf did with the Klingons, where he was raised by humans, and he goes so far over, and Tendy's just like, we're not all like that. And then you find like he's trying to be a pirate, and then he finally admits he was raised by humans, and all he's seen of the Orions is in holo novels, which just reminds me the kind with the boobs on front.
With the heaving Orion bosoms.
It reminds me of the Worf stuff, where Worf is always like, Klingons are this, and then eventually they're like, well, not everyone, it was kind of a
Buys
play
into
on that.
to
I
the
like
stereotypes.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ted. That's when you really realize too that Tendi is a badass in the Orions. That's that sort of first hint when she takes over the ship.
Oh yeah, because she's the mistress of the winter constellations.
Yeah, but we don't know that yet. I don't think.
Maybe at this point, season 3. I don't know if
we know that by now. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Mesk.
I think. What he said? Tendy's cousin.
Mesk is his name. Thank you,
Mesk,
Norman.
yes.
Anything for you, mistress of the winter constellations.
Yeah. And just back on this episode, I was like, I think I had some clips from it. Yeah, and I do.
And my security chief.
Oh, I know this scarred up old barrel bug. How are you, Shad?
Any day not living under Cardassian rule is a good one.
We were in the Resistance together.
Right. He saved my life.
He saved my life during a raid on the Haru outpost. I still owe you for that one.
No, you don't. She saved my life when we were ambushed at Vanaker. She saved my life when we were ambushed at Vanaker.
Yeah, because I owed you for pulling me out of that plasma storm in the Badlands.
I'm sure it was all very rebellious.
We wouldn't have even...
I'm sure it was all very rebellious. And,
We wouldn't have even made it to the Badlands if you hadn't sprung me from that prison transport.
You sprang me from one the week before.
That one didn't count. We were both locked up. Come on.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great dynamic there. And oh, man. Yeah. This was a good one. Okay. Moving on to our next highest rated one, Fisher Quest, right? Am I going in the right order here? I think I am.
Reflections.
There should be one more 9.8. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have these top 5 in the right order. Yeah. So we have Reflections next, season 3, episode 5. This is the one with Rutherford learning about the history of his implant and how he got it in the first place, and that he used to be like this different person. And he had like his whole personality replaced. There was this whole thing with Admiral Buenamigo, was like the great villain of season 3. Even though his name was Buenamigo, it sounds like he's going to be a really nice guy.
We're a good friend.
Not a good friend. It means, I think, this is our best chance to heal. Wait, where is it? Wait until you see it.
Starfleet is so competitive. Once you're an admiral, you hit a wall. I've been trying for years to make a name for myself.
Wait, that means...
Yes, I set you up.
Yes, the evil Badmiral himself.
Admirals are always evil.
Right. They're all about those epaulets.
Wait till you see the uniform. It has 4 epaulets.
4 epaulets. This was like the whole thing here where the original Rutherford personality, I guess, has to sacrifice himself. Am I remembering this right? So that the other one can move on, and like they're so different. Like the Rutherford that we know on the show, this happy-go-lucky guy, is not who he was at all prior to this this accident, I guess, that was based on them developing this new engine technology that Rutherford was sort of doing off the books for this admiral, or at the time I think he was a commander or a captain maybe. And so any thoughts on this episode?
What I really liked about this episode is the B story. Is this is Boimler and Mariner doing the kiosk on the planet, and Boimler ends up freaking out. Like this is a Boimler gone bad and a Rutherford gone bad episode, and I love it. Like he freaks out. We meet that archaeologist. I like that's and I love it. I love their Starfleet's just getting shit on through the whole thing.
Boimler ends up in the brig at the end.
Oh, right.
Anytime I see somebody do a review of a Star Trek episode and they shit all over it, that rant is exactly what happens in my head.
Yeah.
Also from this episode, Rutherford and Rutherford.
These Cali-class junkers are such fire traps. The Cerritos is a great ship. Give me back my body.
Yeah, you hear that? Hear that, Davan? The Cerritos is a great ship. Don't be listening to evil Rutherford and criticizing that ship. Okay, sorry. So I think now to move on to our next highest rated episode, the second highest rated overall. Here we go. Fissure Quest, which is the penultimate episode of season 5 and the series overall. This is the one with Harry Kim. This is the many Harry Kims. The one with 2 Pips who is insane. We also have there's the William Boimler, the transporter duplicate created of Bradward Boimler. We have this alternate version of T'Pol. We have Curzon Dax. We got this whole crew of like alternate timeline versions. And it's very little of the like Lower Decks proper cast in the episode. Although the guy who does Shax, the voice of Shax, Fred Taschiori, he was also the voice of Curzon Dax. So
they also canonize the relationship between Bashir and
Garrick.
Garrick.
Yep. Well, it's specifically Garrick and the Bashir hologram. Right. The one that I guess never got finished, because Louis Zimmerman was like, oh, he's genetically engineered. We can't
well,
use
it never got finished in our universe, but it
right.
obviously got finished in other universes.
Yeah. And so if it had gotten finished.
I would like to add that pursuant to my previous haiku battle with our own Michael Chan regarding the merits of Harry Kim ever being promoted, I would just like to point out what happens when you promote a Harry Kim, Michael. Yep. What happens when you give Harry Kim 2 Pips? Shit goes to hell.
He goes evil.
Yeah, let's, just joining us, Davan Skelhorn. Coming on in.
What's up?
Hi.
Hey.
D-Money from the East Coast.
Yep, that's what they call me out here.
Where's my Harry Kim quotes when I need them? Anyway,
you guys talking about Fissure Quest? You guys going through the whole series, are you? Episode by episode?
We're going by that. We were talking about the bottom 5 episodes, and then we got into the top 5 episodes. So we're almost done the top 5. This is our second highest.
I'm surprised that one where it was like Mariner doing her own movie didn't make the top 5. That one was pretty great. I know.
You mean the Crisis Point?
Yeah, Crisis Point.
Crisis Point got a 9.1. It's it's very high. It's just we have a few episodes that are like almost perfect, almost a full 10, right? So there's
two that are over.
Three 9.8s and then a 10.1 and a 10.5.
A 10.5 because we gave like the finale a couple.
Did I give out some 11s?
You gave it an 11. Yeah. So which brings us, I guess, to. Yeah, this is our highest rated episode overall, which is the follow up to Fisher Quest, the new Next Generation, the finale, the series finale overall.
How often? Well, never has the finale of a series been the best episode.
Yeah,
it's never happened.
Now
this almost makes up for Enterprise. Almost.
I did give this a 10.
Nothing can make up for Enterprise.
You know what made up for Enterprise for me was the previous episode when he says that T'Pol and Trip were married for like 26 years or whatever. I was like, thank God, because I hated that in Enterprise.
Right, that he just dies there and like or whatever.
Yeah. But even like they were in a very short relationship, like they were in a relationship and then it ended quickly before he even died.
When their baby died, was that when they kind of stopped being a couple? I'm trying to remember we kind of get
in between because it jumps ahead.
Yeah,
you don't see it. It's all
because we're getting a holographic reenactment of what we're told happened
and it's
200 years ago.
Yeah, and it's all off screen, and it was terrible. I was so mad.
I'm not so. I gave this a 10 when we rated this episode. Davan gave an 11. World Mind gave an 11. Justin gave it 10. That's why we're at 10.5 here on the average. I feel like I maybe gave this too high. Not that it's a bad episode, but I feel like, is it a perfect episode? Is it a perfect finale of the show? And part of that's maybe informed by Jane's opinion because I didn't really talk to her before that podcast, but she was a little bit unhappy with that whole like now we have this permanent wormhole to the multiverse and we can go anywhere in the multiverse anytime we want. It's like the Bajoran wormhole but to different dimensions. And
you married Jane, not her opinion on this episode, Dave.
But I think she makes a good point. That is that a good thing to canonically establish that there's this portal to the multiverse and anybody can go in and out anytime you want?
Why not? If we have a wormhole to the Delta Quadrant,
or
the Gamma Quadrant.
I think they're different things, but
here's my answer to that, Dave. They're gonna keep doing multiverse stuff forever as long as they're Star Trek. So rather than have to find these silly little MacGuffins each time, like why not just have a way for it to happen?
Have a way.
There, you want to go do your multiverse story?
Yeah.
There you go. You have your little portal.
Like, for instance, 2 converging ion storms and a giant red MacGuffin. Again.
or people just magically appearing on Deep Space Nine from the Mirror Universe. They don't really explain it too much in those episodes. People just appear from the Mirror Universe.
They put the thing, Smiley's device over the transporter. It works.
Everyone has the schematics to that device in the Mirror Universe, apparently.
But only the Mirror people do. Yeah. Nobody in the Prime Universe would ever have those schematics, right?
Just a bunch of scoundrels and idiot characters like Vedic freaking Barile.
Like the other big thing, I guess, at the end of the show is that like the crew mostly stays together, except for Captain Freeman, who goes off, and then Captain Ransom takes over and kind of promotes Boimler and Mariner to sort of acting first officers, co-first officers in some ways.
They love that on this show. Co-science officers, co-first officers. Like, let's just co-captain.
11 out of 10 just for Captain Ransom's engage.
Engage the core.
Engage the core.
It's the best thing ever. I agree. I would give.
It's just as good as Warp Me.
Latinum for more lower decks in the Ransom Captain.
Yeah, I want Captain Ransom so bad.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love and wish
Ransom.
there was more of Lower Decks, I do find it a little bit poetic that it did end after 5 years, like the 5-year mission trope.
Sure.
But I would love to see, like, don't get me wrong, the minimum two possible spin-offs we can get from this being the Ransom as captain and the new Starbase 80 as DS9. I'm really hoping that we do end up seeing at least one of those developed into a series. But the 5-year mark, even though I wanted more of it. I did love that it was a little poetic and a nod to the original 5-year mission trope that it did end on season 5, even though that definitely was not the plan at any point for anybody, from what I understand.
Right.
And its greatest strength is what makes it so sad that it's over. It's just it just kept getting better and better and better, and that never happens. Even my beloved Deep Space Nine took a bit of a dip in season 7.
Sure did.
Yeah. True.
Engage the core.
No, don't you dare go to war on a workout joke.
Sorry, I like it. It's staying.
You are better
Please
than
don't
this.
make this our lives, sir.
You don't want to set that tone. Sir. What if this is a 5-year mission?
Engage the core!
I mean, the best thing this series did, like not just fan service, but the playing it did in the world. Like it introduced so many characters and concepts. Like they have to be picked up somewhere. Like that can't be the end of Agamus and Peanut Hamper.
It absolutely can be the end of Peanut Hamper.
Badgie, sure. Peanut Hamper is still like
no. Badgie's way better than Peanut Hamper. Peanut Hamper is the worst character in Star Trek ever.
Help me out here, Dave.
Well, I prefer Peanut Hamper to Badgie, personally. I think we all agree Agamus is our favorite of these AI villains, if you will, or but I don't know. Like,
I want an episode with Brunt, Wayoon, Agamus, and I think I'm missing a Jeffrey Combs.
Shran.
Only if they're all just pointing at each
Shran.
other, though.
Shran.
And there's also the
Shran
creepy
and-
stalker guy from Voyager or Deep Space Nine.
Yes, the stalker guy.
And the Sunkots guy from Voyager.
Like,
Yes, all of them in one. In fact, just give me an episode where the only voice actor is Jeffrey Combs.
It's Jeffrey Combs.
Actually, Jeffrey Combs also plays a maybe even I love Brunt. He's my favorite character from him, maybe, but like the Ferengi he plays in Enterprise is really good character too.
Yeah.
Remember that?
That's a great Enterprise episode.
They make you love that Ferengi. You're like, what a sweet Ferengi he is.
I want to see a bunch of short treks of Miglimo just doing a cooking show. With Neelix.
Me too.
Neelix and
Yeah,
Miglimo
more
doing a
Miglimo.
cooking show.
That's it. Oh,
That would be
Therapy, my good
pretty
Donald.
great idea.
I cook the mind.
I cook the mind.
Neelix be like, I cook
We
the
Cloacians
Everyone
invented
hates
warp
it.
travel in the hopes of discovering strange new meals.
Like, there's
Or
so many
Miglimo
moments.
trying to train Neelix to be a counselor.
Miglimo is.
I think
so much
Neelix
fun.
is actually already better than that than Miglimo.
Here's my next question. Of like the main Cerritos crew, who is your favorite character of these bunch?
Wow, that's a question.
Easily Tendi for me.
Tendi, okay.
Yeah,
Should
I
we
love
break it
him.
down into lower decks and upper decks at least?
If you must, yeah, sure.
I might. Yeah.
I can still
Lower
do that
decks,
too.
Tendi. Upper decks, Dr. Tana.
Dr. Tiana. Okay.
Mine's Tendi for lower decks and Ransom for upper decks.
Dr. Ta'ana for the upper decks and Talin for the lower decks.
Oh, Talin.
Oh my god, it's like I gotta go upper decks. It's a tie between Ransom and Shax,
Right.
and lower decks. Oh my god, like just
That's hard.
not Rutherford. Like the rest of them, like normally I'd say Mariner, but I really love Boimler and Tendi too. And like Talin come out of nowhere, and like I kind of would rather have more scenes with her than any of them. So is she my favorite? I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, I would have thought you would have said Talin.
I
Yeah,
agree with
Talin.
Norman.
I'll go with Talin. I love her.
Talin is the best recurring character, not counting the traditional lower and upper decks, I would say. She's
Yeah.
the best guest star.
And for me, I think it's Talin on the lower side, even though she doesn't even come until like the end of season 2.
She's
she really
amazing.
and then I'm kind of with you, Shax or Ransom, but I also love Billups. He's hilarious.
He's just not there as much, but he's pretty
just-
great.
You know,
so good.
Yeah, that's the hardest show
I
to
have a
ask
better
that question
question.
about. Really,
Who's your least favorite character?
Rutherford of the lower
Well,
decks.
I knew Rutherford would be yours.
for me, it's Boimler probably. Actually,
I'm a big Boimler fan, but
not that I dislike him, but he's probably my least favorite of these characters. Mariner as well, to some extent.
Early Mariner is my least favorite. Not Mariner as a whole, just specifically season 1 and season 2 Mariner is my least favorite of everybody.
Upper Decks Miglimo, I guess.
Miglimo.
Miglimo is my least favorite.
I think mine would probably be Freeman, just because
I like her. I like her, like, just like she's almost a straight captain, but there's just this comedic aloofness. So she's like,
Warp me.
She's kind of the straight character on the show.
She's the least interesting for me.
What puts her above Miglimo for me is buffer time. When she's freaking out during buffer time, to me it was just like, it just showed the neuroses of a captain, and I just that episode to me is peak Freeman.
I wish I had a specific. I wish I knew which quote specifically from that episode. Yeah.
Never a dull moment when you're on command.
Billups is so much
fun. What is it? I am filled with love, love and emotion, or something like that. When she's screaming, I can't remember what episode that's from.
I am filled with love and emotion.
Speaking of Billups, like one story to do with his homeworld wasn't enough.
Was Buffer Time the one where she was? They sent her to the place to relax. Remember when they all?
With the engineers and they won't stop working.
Yes.
Which one am I thinking? I'm thinking of the one where she tries to implement the timed, where everything is on a timer and they have the pads.
So they're not
that
the same
timed.
episodes.
Yes.
I like the one where they all have to go, the engineers and her, and they all have to go and try and relax, and they can't. Like the aliens were trying to make them relax, and then they discover that the only way for them to relax is to work. She sends them there because she thinks they're overworked, but then she's freaking out because they aren't relaxing when they're supposed to be relaxing.
But that is them relaxing.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of like the whole.
They start working, and then like their blood pressure and everything starts to go down. That's a good Freeman episode because she's like getting pissed off that they can't relax, and she's sent them these aliens.
You're all a bunch of. I think I have that here. You're all a bunch of Geordie LaForges or something like that. You can't stuff.
The best thing about the
Temporal
Cerritos is how
Edict is the one I was thinking of.
engineers are about engineering. Like Billups just sabotages shit so he can do more engineering.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite thing about them. About that they all just love it so much. I was back and forth on the final episode, coming up to the final episode, on whether I wanted Billups to lose his virginity and become king, or stay in engineering because he just loves it so much.
Yeah, here's this one.
By Hysperian law, if I lose my virginity, then I automatically become king. I'd have to resign from Starfleet and take the throne.
Well, that's a whole thing.
Would you? You're king. You do whatever the hell you want.
Is saved. Let's hear it for Prince Andorithio and his calloused squire.
Just like a whole planet of humans who are into Renaissance fair is one of the other more interesting
I really like
ideas.
that episode too.
Yeah,
that's that ridiculousness that Star Trek is so good at.
But it's completely plausible in some ways to me because I'm like, oh well, like
100%.
you know, if you have all these human colonies and you're gonna have these different like subset of society kind of go off and maybe make their own like whole colony.
Yeah.
You know
the Scientologists would have their own world.
You have planets where they're all gangsters and planets where they're Nazis and like there's all of these.
What an out there idea.
Then there's going to be a Renaissance one.
Yeah. Billups is so funny.
The one thing with Billups for me is I can't hear Paul Scheer's voice without thinking of Andre from the League. And I don't know if any of you.
Oh yeah, me too. Oh no, I'm a fan of the League as well.
But it's just like every time he speaks, all I can picture in my head is Andre.
And Andre is like the one in the group. If you've never seen the League, that's about a football pool basically, and who's like great cast. You know, I really
amazing. Highly recommend. Even if you don't know anything about sports like me, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, like Jean Lajoie is on that show, and that other notable comedian, whoever did the voice of the douchebag in
Nick Kroll. Yeah,
Nick Kroll. Yeah. Sausage Party and stuff like that. Anyway, great comedic cast in the league, and also in this. Like, I think like Paul Scheer was a huge find, like addition.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
you know, Jerry O'Connell and like the voice cast of this show. I'm excited because I'm going on that Star Trek cruise in 4 weeks, and it's good to have Tawny Newsome and Eugene Cordero there. And,
so jealous.
I'm very excited to get a chance to maybe talk to them and
tell them Rutherford's my favorite.
Rutherford and Mariner are my favorites. Especially if I'm talking to you. But like. Those are two great characters. Like, I feel like I really know these characters, even though they're just drawn or computer generated or however they go about creating this, right? But it was interesting the other night where Murphy was kind of, I don't like this season 2 episode. This what do you call that? What was that alien called?
Nagilum.
Nagilum. He's like, it doesn't look great. I'm like, but if it's an animated show, you'll love it, right? And he's like, well, it takes a lot of efforts to make an animated show, I'm like,
why am I not impressed by this 1988 television CGI?
Yeah. He's like this. I'm like, at the time, and I think it's still fine, but
I know it's fine, whatever.
Yeah, but
it's better than the Green Hand.
I love a dog in a costume with a horn.
Yeah, like sometimes the silliness of it all, like it does. Like, I would prefer it have like pristine special effects, but sometimes it doesn't matter. Like, I'm more about the story and the characters more than anything.
But everyone complains about the new Trek that has pristine special effects.
That's because the stories suck.
Right.
Yeah.
They're spending all their money on special effects.
And you can't see the special effects because it's too dark. It's like,
well, yeah, that's been one of the new complaints.
It is a little dark for my
anything.
tastes.
Like, but this has been my favorite thing of the new era, Lower Decks. Like,
me too.
100%. Followed by Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds is close.
It may overtake by the end of its run.
Perhaps.
We can hope. We can hope.
Like, Lower Decks still works better for me because, it's, I think with a show like Strange New Worlds, or even to an extent with Discovery, you're recasting a lot of these roles, and I think that for me, that's a little harder. Some people don't care at all, and that's fine. Like, we got a new Spock, we got a new Kirk, but it's the same Kirk. It's the same.
It's also
Spock,
a crutch they use. Like, everything has to have a Spock reference.
Well, and I think
Lower Deck shows they don't have to do that. Make new characters. People like them if they don't suck.
Right. When they bring Garrick in, it's not a new guy playing Garrick. It's just Andrew Robinson. Right. It's with the voice show, like you have that right. It doesn't matter that Jonathan Frakes is perhaps aged out of the role that or the Riker at this particular time.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Well, I'm just he's not 2002 anymore, which he would so it's. Like, all of them, right? Like, Nana Visitor, all of them got to like come back and on some extent. Like,
have he got a hip replacement so he can still throw that leg up over the back of the chair? Just don't you worry.
More than any of these new shows, this show also has the look and feel of Next Gen. Like,
oh yeah,
just the era we love. Like, stop putting Star Trek away from where it's greatest. Like, where there's a huge world to draw from.
Yeah,
these new creative voices that have been part of the new era, like there's been several. Of course, there was Michelle Paradise, who ran a lot of the era of Star Trek Discovery. Although she's not there at the very beginning of the show, she kind of comes. She's more like the season 3 on showrunner. I don't know who runs Strange New Worlds, but like they have like their own person who is producing that show. And that's all to say, I think Mike McMahon, who is the creator of Lower Decks and was the runner, head writer of this show, like he's around the same age as most of us. And, he's grew up on Star Trek The Next Generation. He talked about how that was a show that he watched with his parents. They were into that because they were original series fans, and then they watched that show. And then, Lower Decks is really a love letter to all of that, I think Mike McMahon got some notice in the Star Trek community because he started like a Twitter account called, this is long before he was ever making Lower Decks. It was called like Season 8 of TNG. And he was just like episode, like plots, premises that he would come up with. And they were just like these hilarious jokes. And he was just evident that he had like these amazing comedic chops. And, somehow he convinced Kurtzman and like the rest of them like to get to make this show, and I'm glad that they said yes to it because it was really a gamble. Now, I know that this might be, I don't want to start a firestorm here, but apparently Seth MacFarlane had pitched, like, hey, I want to do a new Star Trek series, and it would have been very similar to what the Orville ended up being, right? But they turned him down. I think at the time they weren't ready to do comedy, at least not in live action Trek, right? And so Seth went off and made the Orville, and part of me wonders is Lower Decks.
No, they wanted comedy. So you don't hire Seth MacFarlane.
And so, like, I think that we get Lower Decks partly because they turned down him for that show or whatever he pitched at the time.
They did.
He probably just said, "Hey, I want to make TNG and cast myself," and they were probably just like, "Dude."
I like the Orville a lot, especially after I've rewatched it and gave it that second look. But as much as I like the Orville, I would rather Seth MacFarlane stay as far away from Star Trek Prime as I would like J.J. Abrams to continue to stay away from Star Trek Prime.
And what's your fear with Seth specifically?
I think it would have gotten into absurdity more than Lower Decks did. I think it would have been less fan service and more Peter Griffin.
MacFarlane service. You can say it.
And I don't want that.
Well, I don't necessarily.
If it was animated, if it was live action, I think it could have been better because the Orville is evidence that he could have done a decent job with it. But if it was animated, I think he would have gone the Family Guy route too hard.
Oh, I don't think he ever pitched an animated show.
I misunderstood.
My understanding was he was pitching a live action. But
he probably just pitched them the Orville, basically. Like,
he probably pitched them a show similar to the Orville, but it was, and maybe he was the main lead.
But that's
of the
too
show.
derivative. Like, they couldn't do that. Like, you couldn't take his Orville thing and make it a Star Trek show. That's too derivative. Like, they'd be like, "What? You just did TNG with a new veneer, like with a bit of it wasn't new enough. They've been trying to be quite different."
Is TNG derivative of the original series?
And then DS9 is that derivative of TNG too a little bit.
Or Voyager more so.
DS9's completely different. Voyager is more so. Yeah.
Yeah, Voyager I think is the weakest in my opinion. Enterprise doesn't even count in my mind. But I think Voyager is the weakest of the series from my generation of Trek, because it was so derivative of TNG.
Every episode was just a reskinned TNG episode.
Right, because Voyager is like, well, this time the ship is on the other side of the galaxy and they're cut off from the Federation. Oh, and there's the Maquis here too, everybody. Like, I don't know how well that really worked as a premise.
I would say Orville's derivative in the same way that like Andromeda felt derivative, where it's just like, we're the hero ship, and here we go, and we're trying to build like a federation, and maybe
I will say that at least it didn't have Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, it didn't have Kevin Sorbo.
I think there are things worse than being derivative too. Like I think.
Absolutely.
But you can be in a good way and a bad way. Like because
I want
Lower
more
Decks
TNG era.
Because I think like if you're trying to like this show Lower Decks, I think was it's so much like TNG, yes, but in so many ways it's not. It's got this whole new set of characters and it's got a very different tone than those other shows. More comedic, of course, and sometimes like there was kind of like, is this still the same universe that we know, right? But
I think other than being on a ship, I think it probably matches DS9 the most, because DS9 gets labeled as dark, but it's the most outwardly comedic as well. Like it has so many like Nogs and Roms and characters that are just there for comedy.
And Worf is a huge part of that too, right?
But they mix that. Worf's so hilarious in that show. Yeah. But yeah, so
DS9, especially in like seasons 4 to 6, really hits that great balance of darkness, comedy, drama. And I didn't like DS9 when it first played because I had a huge issue with the direction they took things, like, militarily wise. but having I'm on my rewatch, a full rewatch of it right now, I appreciate so much more a lot of the themes and Cisco as a character way more than I did
Cisco's
back in the 90s when it was running. But yeah, Lower Decks, it's fantastic in that it does hit all those beats. It gave me what I wanted of more TNG, and it also was a remedy for me of some of the issues I have with some of the modern Trek being as dystopian as it has been. That this gave it that lighter, even sometimes that more hopeful, Strange New Worlds feeling that Picard and Discovery, in my mind, have been lacking.
And Prodigy had that too.
Right.
And Prodigy, I haven't finished, I'm not caught up on it yet, but it's so much better than I originally gave it credit for. Like, I can't believe they tried to shit can it, to be honest with you.
Tried to. They did shit can it.
Well,
like,
yeah,
they shipped it right off to Netflix. They didn't even put it on their streaming service.
Unceremoniously, I'd say so. At least, like, Lower Decks at least got the benefit of, like, this is our final season. We knew it was the finale, but with Prodigy, it was kind of like, here's the second season. Bye.
We weren't even going to drop the second season. They canceled it, and then they were just going to let it sit.
Yeah, they were going to write it off like Batgirl.
Yeah.
And there was this whole period where, like, even like the official Trek channels, like on social and wherever else, they were just like, we have these two great animated series, Lower Decks and Star Trek the Animated Series, and we're like, what? The animated series? Like, why are we pounding our chest about that? And and Prodigy was out at that point,
and much better than the animated series.
100%.
I love the animated series.
I'm not. Yeah,
it's funny.
It's very much it's a very much a 70s kind of era Hanna-Barbera type cartoon. But
I love Scooby-Doo. I still watch Scooby-Doo as a 40-year-old woman. I still watch Scooby-Doo. I've always loved Scooby-Doo, and it reminds me of Scooby-Doo. It's Star Trek Scooby-Doo, and I love it. I'm just always like so happy watching an episode of the animated series.
Yeah, it's
Saturday
too bad.
morning cartoons for me.
And I'm good with Star Trek in animation. I'm not I think especially if it gets us to bring back characters that, are either too old or just don't want to do live action anymore or whatever. Allows us to, that was the whole thing with the animated series. Once the original series got canceled, they're like, those stories continue on because they had Shatner and Nimoy and the rest mostly, back in that cast. Prodigy was a whole new voice cast mostly, as was this, and for whatever reason in this new, I don't know how they make decisions about what shows get canceled and what shows get kept and what the financials of it all are, but
not intelligently.
It's
yes, Norman.
Yeah,
What did you say?
But not Velma.
Oh, I did not watch that.
But why did this recent experiment, I guess, with Star Trek doing animated shows again in Prodigy and Lower Decks, they both came to a very quick, unceremonious ends, right, respectively?
Is 5 seasons quick and unceremonious since Enterprise, basically?
Well, I guess not. It's only 10 episodes a season, though, so it's
that's
like
modern TV. That's all we're ever going to get ever again.
Yeah,
that's
true.
10 to 13 episodes. Actors don't want to do the 22 to 26 episode seasons anymore. It was grueling for them. It took them 8 days to get an episode out, and they were doing 16-hour days, 9 months out of the year. They never saw their kids.
Yeah,
It's too much. We can't go back to that.
But we got
some actors miss those days, but they weren't the best parents.
The workaholics,
It was great back then. I didn't see my kids.
I never went home.
Nowadays,
all that's true, and I guess from a workers' rights standpoint, it's a good thing. But just from somebody who watches these shows, I'm like, I like the longer seasons that we're still covering on some of these old shows, like.
The cast built more chemistry back in those days, just spending all those hours together. Like now, it's hard to find any chemistry between characters. I find
and I think Strange New Worlds has done a decent job
Strange
with
New
that.
Worlds has good chemistry,
which is something I wanted to touch on while we're still on this whole Lower Decks is over, because this isn't a Lower Decks episode specifically, but when Lower Decks did cross over with Strange New Worlds in their second season, the episode Those Old Scientists with Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid coming over to play live action versions of their
TOS era.
TOS era, right? That's what I call them. Those old scientists. But there was even in this episode there were sections that were fully animated that were done in the Lower Decks style.
We get Strange New Worlds animated in the.
That would have been fun.
In the,
Pike's
in
hair
the
in cartoon form would be like this tall. It would have been amazing.
Well, the very end, last little bit, they're cartoon in the Lower Deck style. The Strange New Worlds cast is at the end.
Right.
There's a scene at the end.
This episode just boils down to Riker.
Yeah,
it's the best part of the whole episode. Getting on the saddle, Riker.
I love seeing Mariner just lose her cool over Uhura. I love it.
Or when hot Spock. Talking about how hot Spock is.
Yeah. You just get to see her geek out like Boynes usually does.
I don't love the live action adaptation of the Lower Decks uniform.
I knew that was coming.
Like
what's with the piping? The piping is too strong.
The piping where the shoulder line starts. Like I pull it apart, and I have, but it just I think it could have looked a little better, but otherwise it's fine.
I don't care.
What?
We're just gonna get a like an audio clip of Kevin saying "I don't care," and we can hit that a lot. We can save you the trouble, Kevin.
So this guy's saying Admiral Teague saying Lower Decks will be back if Kurtzman is retained. Sadly, believe me, that final season BS was to get their hashtags to trend. They've said it's not over. What?
But
I'm going to tie anything good potentially to Kurtzman.
It would have to be in a different. It would be in a different form though, because it's changed, and then Tawny Newsome is going to be working on the new show.
Right.
The Office.
I would be happy if Lower Decks is back in some form, even if it's like a movie or something. Or
I would give up a season 6 to have someone other than Kurtzman take over.
Me too.
Yeah, and I don't hate everything Kurtzman. I think Kurtzman did a good job greenlighting this show. He said yes to this show. Yeah. He said yes to things around Strange New Worlds, and I think he's had some wins, and I think he's had some big losses.
It's not great when you're summarizing up somebody's
right twice a day.
Value. Yeah, exactly. You're summarizing someone's value, and they're like, they said yes once.
but I think
they
Rick
said
Berman,
yes to smarter people.
Yeah, they said yes to smarter people once. Usually saying no to smarter people. But I gotta go. You don't want to hit me with anything, do you? Do you need a rating or anything?
No. It's just kind of like it's over now. So
if I go to a room full of screaming children.
Oh, have fun.
Gross. Have fun.
Yep. Right. No, that's she nailed it. Okay, bye.
They grow up. Don't worry.
Well, we know.
I'm so maternal.
Yeah, I do feel like I was talking with Ashley, I think last week about it. Just how I think when you even if you look at Enterprise, right? There's that whole era of TNG through Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise, which is done under the Rick Berman regime, I would say. Where he was kind of like the main head guy for Star Trek in terms of deciding who got to work on what and what shows were put out there or what movies. And I feel like if you look by the end of Enterprise, I think the part of the franchise fatigue of it all is that it got a little one note, in terms of how they made it. I think having something new and different is good. And so I think same thing with this Kurtzman era where even though these shows are all kind of different in tone, but I just think some new creative leadership would be welcome right now. He's been in power for 10 years plus, and a lot of that was because those Chris Pine movies, which Kurtzman worked on with others. He got to kind of he was rewarded for the success of that. And some of that energy he brought into the new projects like Discovery, I think some of it was good and some of it not so much, you know. And I think they have learned some things, but you know,
I think we're never going to get the Trek that I want. And I think that's something I've resigned myself to now, especially with the recent release of the most recent Star Trek property. I get where their head is at in wanting to bring in a younger audience. And I also acknowledge that I am over 40 now. And, you know, I'm reaching that curmudgeonly Badmiral stage of life where I just want to see the shit that I loved when I was younger.
Welcome.
Look at the X-Files. I hated the reboot. I still will watch, even if they come out with more garbage, I'll still watch every episode of that crap. But it's never going to be the show that I want it to be. And Star Trek is in the same position. Lower Decks is close. Strange New Worlds is close sometimes. But I don't think we're ever going to see the lightning in the bottle that was the overall nostalgia of the Berman years.
Well, it's also it's not just that Star Trek is different, it's that TV in general is different. Like storytelling is different now. And so it's that old style, it's not coming back. It's
no, it doesn't seem like it.
And when you look at those series without the rose-colored glasses of nostalgia, would they hold up for us now like they did then? Do you know what I mean? Like,
probably not. No.
Yeah, like I feel like everyone complains and they talk about TNG and Deep Space Nine and all of that, but everyone seems to forget how much Deep Space Nine was absolutely hated at the time it came out. And now looking back on it, and it's the same for me. I didn't like it when it started. I was young. I was only like 10 or 11 when it started. And I didn't enjoy the characters. I loved the next gen characters, and I didn't really, and it wasn't until I was an adult, it wasn't until like the pandemic that I really sat down and watched more than a few episodes here and there and watched it from start to finish and went, this is actually a really great series. I hated it at first. And the whole reason Worf was brought over was because it was hated when it was airing. They needed to bring over a character that people loved, and that's why he was brought over.
And it worked. I mean, that's really when it hits its stride.
Yes,
too.
absolutely. So and Enterprise the same. Like Enterprise was panned and hated, and now with the view of nostalgia, like 20 years later, people are being less hard on it. And I wonder if in 20 years people will be less hard on this stuff we're getting now.
Well, I think I think a good point, because I think like when I watched even this or like the Orville, when it came along, I was like, yes, it's more familiar, right, in tone, because I think Discovery comes out in 2016, and you know people's liked it or disliked it to varying degrees, but it comes out with this very like dark Game of Thrones-esque sort of like different kind of, like, this is new, and I commend them for trying to go in a different direction and not just try to do something derivative of what had already been done. However, I think that, you know, like especially in that pilot, which I think has a lot of good points, but at the end of it, it's like the main character is going to prison. We haven't even seen the ship yet. It's a very like somber sort of tonally, right? It's a different type of narrative, right? And so when the Orville came along, I remember Gene like, yes, this is more what I want because it's more familiar. And Lower Decks, even though it's new in the sense that it's like this fast-moving children's comedy kind of like thing, it's also very much feels rooted in what's familiar, which is that like TNG era Trek. Same thing with Strange New Worlds. It just felt more like, yeah, this is totally more what I want. I see our Admiral friend here in the comments, you know, saying like, you know, do we want more kooky ideological shows for children like Prodigy, etc. But
see, I think that attitude that's being displayed there, that's going to be what actually kills Star Trek. If you're not open to at least giving some of the new stuff, even if you don't like it, if you're not open to at least giving it a shot, then then you might as well just watch reruns. Why are you even bothering watching any of the new stuff?
Yeah.
And the vitriol from fans, and I'm guilty of it too. Like, I mean, go back and watch me ranting about how I felt about Section 31. And you know what? Like, I hate crapping all over any of it. Even the stuff that I think is terrible, I hate crapping all over it. And I hate when people just dump on it, because there are a lot of talented people and there are a lot of good things in the new Trek. Just because I don't particularly like some of them doesn't mean they don't have value. So, you know, I don't find that conversation worth engaging in, because I'm not going to agree, and I'm not going to waste my breath arguing about it. I just think that we need to, as a fan base, be more open to change. And when you want to see the Star Trek that you love, go put on a rerun.
Okay, well, I'll give you one
Star
more
Trek
here.
has always been ideological, so I don't really know what that question
he's saying, do you think
stands out for.
is what we
You
need?
seem to not really understand what Star
I don't know
Trek
what
is
you mean
about.
by that, sir. Like, ideological, like, you know.
Did you not see any of Star Trek: The Next Generation, or
Or
do
show
we
that's
not
programmed
need a
for
show
children?
that panders to children? What's wrong with that?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily. Like, I think original series was meant kind of for kids too. It was meant for the whole family, and so was Next Gen and
the animated series.
You know, like I just think that Star Wars has shows that are geared towards children, but they also have movies geared towards adults, right? So I don't think, you know, maybe some people just want, I don't know, like something more serious and more like.
I don't know. I think there's a certain subsection of the fan base that's just not worth engaging with.
Well, I think there's a fair, like, you know, because I watched Shive's whole review about, you know, everyone was coming out against, you know, our friend Sean Farrick from Trek Culture, who did the interview with, you know, some of the Section 31 cast, and, you know, everyone's like sending death threats in the comments to Kurtzman and all this kind of, you know, and Farrick's like, if you don't like it, you don't like it. Who cares? But, you know, you don't need to get like angry and militant about it or anything. It's like, it's pointless, you know. I would like to see a change in leadership
it's
too.
It's a TV show.
Yeah, it's entertainment, you know. So.
Everyone's not going to like everything, and I think having multiple different ways to view it and different is good, because, you know, Discovery is going to hit for this fan, and Strange New Worlds is going to hit for that fan, and Prodigy is going to hit for a different fan, and I think it's better to have more that are tonally different airing at the same time that can bring in fans that will help keep Star Trek going. And I would rather not see us pigeonhole Star Trek into just being one thing, that then people get bored of that one thing and then it goes away again for another 10, 15 years. I would like to see it going. I want to see more stuff outside of just watching. Like everyone says, they want the crew on the ship exploring. Great. That's great Star Trek. I enjoy that Star Trek, obviously. But I also want to see more outside stories. Was Section 31 the best Star Trek movie ever made? No. I will argue that it's definitely not my least favorite Star Trek movie ever made. But if we can get more streaming movies that tell more stories in the whole Star Trek universe, I think that would be great.
Yeah, and I don't have to like all of them.
No, I don't need to like all of them, or I can like some more than others, you know.
I don't like everything either, but overall, I'm always positive on getting more Star Trek.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again, even after Section 31, which may or may not count for this, but you put a Delta on someone, tell me a story that they're in, I'll watch it. I may not enjoy it. I may rant about how it's not what I wanted, but I'm still going to watch it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know, and so, some random person from X-Rated, being open to new things is to be balanced with demanding quality, so don't get more Section 30. Yeah, so, like, I didn't like Section 31 either, but, you know, it came and went, and I'll forget about it, and that's it, you know? Like,
They tried something, it didn't work. I don't expect them to do more of it, given the reaction to it.
Right. That would make sense to me. Like I think something I celebrate shows like the Orville because I think they are closer to what I would like to see. But like, is it a perfect Star Trek or a perfect version of Star Trek? No. Like it's hard to get back to it, but I think it's not impossible either. Like by get back to it, I'm like, you have this hit show, Star Trek the original series, and then somehow lightning in a bottle happened twice. Star Trek the Next Generation, even more successful, even more popular than the original, I would argue. And I'd say everything that's come since has not been as popular, since Next Gen, and so I don't know if will they ever get to that peak again. It's hard to imagine, but it's not impossible. But it doesn't mean that, like a lot of people say Star Trek's dead. I don't think that's true either. I think we're just in a different landscape, where it's there's more competition. And
how could it be dead? We just had Lower Decks and we have Strange New Worlds. Those are loved. Like it's still going. It's not
just
dead.
Catastrophizing. I don't know. You know what? I don't like all of modern Trek. I like some of it. I'm here for whatever comes next. I'm looking forward to finishing up Prodigy. I'm going to eventually watch the entirety of the animated series, which I haven't actually seen all of. I might even go back and rewatch Enterprise if I feel particularly masochistic.
That's the problem. X-rated.
Enterprise is so fun, though. It's fun.
No, not like my father.
No, but
it's his
I don't.
favorite.
I personally don't need anything to feel more like a comic book. I feel like that's often I feel like Picard was very much like a comic book, and I didn't care for it. But in terms of the storytelling,
Picard's the only one.
Yes, Admiral Teague, I endorse ideological Star Trek for children. Yes.
Yes, 100%, because all Star Trek is ideological, and I don't see why children shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, and I don't know what your deal is, buddy. But
your argument is invalid.
Yeah, maybe you need to go take a walk.
There's a bad rule if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, but oh no, they're having messages to children in a cartoon. Oh, what's you? Get out of here.
Yeah, piss off.
So, anyway, on that note, Lower Decks. What do I just hope we get something more. I hope we see these characters again in some form. Whatever that looks like, I'm not ready to say goodbye to them.
Give us some streaming movies of Lower Decks.
Streaming movies, yeah, that would be great. Get back because they have such a chemistry. They have such a vibe.
Here and there, give us another story.
Yeah, so
put a delta on somebody. Tell me a story.
Yeah.
I do agree with Davan. I would love to see the current run of the Star Trek comics in live action. It is amazing. But yeah, give me more. Give me more Lower Decks. You know what? Give me more friggin' Section 31 even. I'll give me something to bitch about. I always love raging about something.
Give me something that there's a lot of aspects of Section 31 I very much enjoyed. The characters didn't hit for me, and that was the big thing.
Yeah, because they sucked.
Yeah.
They were all annoying except for the leader.
The leader guy
was fine. The actors were amazing. The writing was, I think, probably very rushed and obviously cut down from what it had been.
I feel like some of the writing was I feel like tonally it just didn't match. We have this dark mirror stuff, and then this weird Irish Vulcan. It was all over the place.
It was
for me.
Stupid.
I feel like some was written for something else, and then they just threw in other scenes, and it was. But like I said, it wasn't my least favorite Star Trek movie. So
I also think that movie was supposed to go into theaters, and then somebody watched it and went, "Oh, if we make people pay for this, they're going to be pissed off." They went, "This is going to streaming."
Yeah, I think if you're going to make a movie about Section 31 as a concept, I think you can make a better movie, even with the same characters and everything else. I think there's just a better story.
Maybe actually feature Section 31 as an organization.
Well, I think that and the whole idea of the whole premise of is Section 31 even necessary? Because that's often the thing is Starfleet's got too many rules and therefore they can't do the dirty work that is necessary. And I would argue the dirty work you deem necessary is not necessary. You know, I think if you can't do it within your official channels, then
Cisco
I think,
does the dirty work all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think our criticisms of Cisco are valid.
Would there have been more deaths in the Dominion War without Section 31?
Maybe, right? And so,
But I think longer. Sometimes, you can argue both. I can argue both sides. I can argue both sides of anything. That's why I love debating.
Mm-hmm.
I've often argued that you couldn't have a socialist utopian paradise such as the Federation without an organization such as Section 31 working in the background, because you're surrounded by the Romulan Star Empire, the Klingons, the Andorians.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there and the Ferengi. You're not going to be able to have a socialist paradise when the rest of the galaxy isn't on board with that, without having someone willing to do what's necessary to keep the Federation the Federation. It's ugly, and it brings a reality to Star Trek, which I didn't feel that opinion originally when Section 31 was introduced, but I think with age and a realization of how the world works, I think it was a great addition to Star Trek.
Anyway, I think that. Sorry, got distracted by.
Just ignore it.
Angry man in the comments.
Everything that's wrong with
I think you need therapy.
Illustrated.
You need a therapist to deal with your anger issues, like your keyboard warrior going on there. Anyway, buddy.
Make your case for identity politics.
We don't care about what's illegal in New York. We're Canadian.
Also, fuck off.
Yeah.
If I could underline you saying that, I'd do it twice.
I think you just.
It's a TV show.
Go for a hike. Go for a hike and oh my god.
Go outside.
Star Trek is transing the kids.
Get off the computer.
No!
Stop transing us! They're programming our kids with a show.
Go for a long walk up a short cliff. I don't care. Just
if you don't want your kids to watch Star Trek, don't show your kids Star Trek. What can I say?
He probably doesn't have any kids. All these kids that scream about this shit don't even have kids.
Yeah, they're trying to program them. That's my voice for him now, right now. Anyway, let's sign off here, guys. All right.
Yeah, I think it's gone downhill a bit.
All right, gone downhill. Overall, we loved Lower Decks, and I'm sad it's gone. And I'm, I just hope we get more from the characters. And with that said, 8.4 out of 10 is our overall rating, overall score for this show. And I think that's pretty good. That's one of our highest ratings of any show. So if you like what we do here, I feel like the Admiral guy does. Check out our other content here, like our Section 31 review from last Saturday. Hear what we had to say about that. We are also right now covering the episodes of the Orville. Talk about the season 3 episode, A Tale of Two Tobas. Oh no, more ideological programming for kids here.
I like my stories to mean nothing.
I like
so wow. And teach me nothing.
It's so wow.
Yeah, we're talking about Tale of Two Topas, season 3, episode 5 on Monday, and then we're covering our next episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation on Tuesday this coming week. It will be season 2, episode 3, Elementary, Dear Data.
Yeah, Pulaski and Data.
Yeah, we also did a live script read back in December. The little thing we call Star Trek Radio Theater. We did Star Trek Generations. Go back and listen to that. We did that with Sean Farrah from Trek Culture, and we are working on the edited version of that. And if you didn't know, Live Long, a podcast co-founder, Jaemeel Robinson, has a new podcast, True Currency, which is a pop culture podcast he's doing with his new lady friend there. So Becky with the good hair, or the great hair, as we call her.
The great hair.
And his other friend, Madison. So go check out all that great stuff here on Live Long, a podcast, all kinds of great podcasts all the time, including trivias and what else do we? Debates, all kinds of fun things. That would be resolved. Ideological programming for children should be in Star Trek. That has to be on the next debate. So,
live long and prosper, everyone, or stay mad and get fucked, whatever.
Yeah. And with all that said, I don't know. I'm just going on a random quote. We'll find. Hopefully, it's a good one here, guys. Here, this is one.
What, does it make an alternate cinematic timeline that runs concurrent to our own, but with like different people playing younger versions of us?
Scientifically, that would be a bit of a reach.
Whatever.
All right.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.